If you knew what your true yes was and what your true no was in all areas of your life, would you be able to choose faster and easier? What futures would those choices create? Everyone is capable of connecting to their bodies in a way to have more exuberant and joyful living now and in the future. Now, here is your host of Choosing a Different Future with Siris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo, and you're here with me on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. And today our show topic is self-care and communication skills for more joyful breakups. Yes. And if you're new to me or you're new to this show, I am a life coach that emphasizes the importance of communication in all types of relationships and making sure that you care for yourself, that you're all of yourself in your relationships. And this show is all about different examples, different tools and strategies that you can use so that you can choose beyond what's been projected and expected of you in all of your relationships in any area of your life. And today's show topic is really fun. We got some questions sent in, so I'm excited about that. The other aspect as well is I have been a speech and language pathologist for over 17 years now. I think it looks like at least 15 onward. I feel like I should just say 15 up at this point. And I love working particularly with families and busy individuals around communication, around their self-care and the systems that they use to create lives that light them up, that really include more of them in it. And as a speech language pathologist, I sometimes will have a bit of a slant to things where I'm talking about people and children with special abilities and special needs. And so if you have any questions about that, join us in the chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com/chat room. Send in questions. We got some questions that were sent in that I'm going to read aloud, but I love hearing from y'all. And I love working with the people that are really like to develop these skills in their life. So some comments, some people mentioned some things from the last episode on when kink and polyamory don't work or doesn't work. And thank you for the feedback on that. I'm glad you liked it. There was one question comment in particular that I wanted to highlight. And it's that a lot of people wanted to ask questions about what are the commonalities between people's relationships when they do kink and poly and when they're doing monogamy. And for me, there's actually more common than not, honestly, especially when it comes to the communication piece, when it comes to the checking in on the state that the person's in before you choose something or not, all these different things. So I'm going to speak to more of that. I'm going to look at that and bookmark it as a possible future episode topic. But I just wanted to highlight that there's actually way more in common than not, but most people focus on what's different, and especially what's different given what's the portrayals and representations of them in media and TV, in news, and the actors and celebrities out there. And that's not really as nuanced and as diverse of the experiences and the possibilities that are available that I've experienced and that the people that I know that are in these communities and that are practicing these lifestyles have. So just like with a lot of the other things we talk about, start from a place of commonality. Where is the overlap? Where do you actually have a lot more in common? And that's a great place to start then, from when you're talking to people that are kinky, that identify as kinky, that identify as having an open relationship or a polyamorous relationship. And that with that commonality, you often then will address things and approach someone in a way that is respectful, in a way that doesn't other them, and in a way that is not so slimy. So really being like, hey, I have this thing going on with my partner, or I've had breakups happen in all types of dynamics. That's something that's a commonality. And there's heartbreak, and there's somebody that sent us a question about breakups and heartbreak in that episode, so check it out if you haven't watched it yet. And I think that it really resonated with people, no matter what type of relationships they've chosen so far or they've had so far. So I really want to highlight that, because when I discuss these things, my hope is that you see that there's a lot more in common, as I'm also educating you on the differences and on some of the things that maybe you haven't ever considered before. Another announcement is that we're going to be having our last live show where you can jump in to the chat room, get those comments in, and talk with me and send in those questions live while we're broadcasting on November 3rd. That's going to be on honoring those who have passed 2023. We did this theme last year in November, and it was really powerful. We got some great feedback from our listeners, and since there has been even more people that have passed in this last year, for me personally and for our listeners, I wanted to give another chance for people to send in the name and any message you'd like to send to your loved ones, or any comment. Some people last year, they sent in like, oh, this person passed at this year, and it doesn't have to be in this last year. It could be any time, because grief has no timeline. And they also would send in, and the people who are still surviving them are these people. So whatever little message you'd like me to read aloud, and whoever you'd like me to include in the energies of that episode, please go ahead and email us at empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. And share that episode with anyone that is in the grieving process, because we are going to be running Energies of the Living and Dying Body process. I will be recording that episode from Chicago the day before our next awakening class there, that is live streamed around the world, or you can join us live in person in Chicago. But I'm really hoping that this episode contributes to people, and I want you to know that that is going to be the last episode that is live. And then for the rest of the year, I'm going to be focusing on clients, on family, and on my writing. So really walking the talk of what we're talking about with self-care for myself and for my loved ones. So thank you for the comments, making sure that you know about that. So today's topic, self-care and communication skills for more joyful breakups. I'm curious. So have you ever found yourself questioning your life choices after a relationship ends? It's a sentiment many can relate to. The end of a relationship can leave us feeling lost and afraid, but with the right tools, you can rediscover our joy. We can rediscover our joy. You can rediscover your joy. So in this episode, we will delve into the realm of post-breakup healing. Post-breakup healing, with years of experience guiding both individuals and couples. I'm going to share some insights, some practical tips, and some conscious actions and communication techniques on how to navigate the challenging aftermath of a breakup and empower your healing journey. That's my hope. Okay, that's my hope. Now, imagine a life where past relationships no longer control you. They no longer have this hold over you, where you actively create joy even in heartbreak. Are you ready to receive actionable steps and tips that transform pain into empowerment? I was feeling a little sneeze coming on. Hold on. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. But yes, this is going to be really, really interesting. And I don't know if y'all remember, I've mentioned this in past episodes, but I have been dating since I was 11 years old. I had my first kiss at 11, and then I had my first boyfriend shortly after. I've dated mostly men and a handful of women. There's lots of reasons for that, but that's where I'm at with it. And I say men and women not to negate the people who are non-binary or gender fluid. When I was last dating somebody else before Justin, that was still when those terms were coming about. They weren't as prevalent and as common now. And so if I were to date somebody now that identified that way, I would include them in there. And I've definitely had mega crushes on people that were transgender, that were and are transgender, and people who identify as non-binary. But because I didn't date them, not including them in the mix right now. And it's really, really interesting to date people of all walks of life. It's really also opens up my world. It has opened up my world. And that's one of the things that we can talk about as well as a tip. But one of the things that I want to make sure that as we're talking about this, because breakups can bring up so much in all of us, I'd like to make sure that you are connected with your body. So give your body a squeeze. Even if we're in healthy relationships right now, thinking about past relationships and past breakups can elicit emotions and feelings and sensations and upheaval, and just memories can come up. So I want you to be really present with your body and stay here with me. And as you're giving yourself a hug, know that I'm giving you a hug until I can give you a hug in person. All right. But I want to acknowledge that this is just going to be just scratching the surface on all the things that are possible in how you can navigate relationships. But one of the comments that, thank you, I'm getting hugs from the live chat. One of the comments that were sent in, I want to read aloud, because it really encapsulates one of the things that is really important about this episode today. Is the person wrote, when I saw the title of this episode, I realized that I don't let myself feel joy while quote unquote getting over someone, because I believe that's part of the breakup process. Just reading the words quote unquote joyful breakups shook up my world. And for the listener that sent this in, thank you for that. And I don't think you're alone with it. I actually wrote a article, quick book called 10 Conscious Actions for Exuberant Joy with Breakups. I don't have it available on my website anymore. I've since taken it off. But if somebody wants it, email me. I'll see if I can find it. One of the things with that is that I write about, and why I wrote it, was that I was looked at as a total weirdo when I would be seen laughing and having fun with friends and traveling and doing business in a positive way. And I wasn't faking it. I wasn't like, let me just push it all down and pretend that I'm not hurting. I had the hurt with me, and I also was able to include the joy versus the hurt eclipsing everything, my whole worldview and everything that I chose. And I actually, I'm going to give my mom credit for this a little bit, because I remember even when we were preparing for my abuela, my grandmother, Raquel, who I'm named after, to pass away, we were waiting in a lot of ways since she was 75, 80 years old, and she didn't pass away until she was 94. And so with each birthday, with each holiday, with each momentous occasion, from graduations to weddings to baby showers to the birth of children, as a family, as an immediate family, we kept checking in and being like, if she passes away, keep doing what you're doing, keep living your life. And yes, it'll be here, the grief will be here, but don't let it stop you from being you. And part of me being me is having joy. And man, has that been tested in the last 3 years, where I have had one thing after the other just hit me, in addition to a lot of people passing. And yet I really needed to flex the tools and tips that I'm going to share with you today, all the more because of that. So I don't think, listener, that you're the only one who has bought the Kool-Aid or drank the Kool-Aid about that when you're in a great breakup, that you're not supposed to be happy, you're not supposed to be smiling, and that there's almost this underlying message that if you are happy, if you are smiling, if you're still doing things like running your businesses and the activities that you really like, that you didn't really love the person that much. You must have not cared about them. And then you do this woe is me, let's rock in the corner, let's cry all day, let's eat the ice cream, all those cliches from rom-com movies. That's a way to prove how much you love the person. And I'm calling bullshit on all of that. I think that when you love the person, you love the person, and you also need to continue to love yourself during that relationship with them and afterwards. And one of the greatest gifts that you can give to yourself is creating and choosing joy, even if it's moment to moment. And it doesn't have to be that it's always, yay, no. But can it be a little bit more possible than maybe you've allowed yourself to have when you think back on those breakups, when you think back on those relationships, when you think back on the people that have passed? We're going to be talking about that in the November 3rd episode on honoring those who have passed. Okay, so definitely consider that. Now let's take our first break. When we return, we're going to continue to discuss self-care and communication skills for more joyful breakups. You're listening to Choosing a Different Future with Siris on the Inspired Choices Network. We'll be right back.
Most people haven't been taught how to listen and partner with their bodies in order to create lives that include clarity, pleasure, ease, and connection. Tuning in to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and resources on how to use your awareness of bodies and energy to your advantage. Siris is a family and child coach and therapeutic energy worker who will guide you to get clear and acknowledge what's brilliant, magical, and a gift about you.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Choosing a Different Future show with Siris. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Connect with Siris through her website, empoweringlightlanguage.com, or send an email to empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. And today our show topic is self-care and communication skills for more joyful breakups. Our show is brought to you by Protandim Tri-Synergizer. Take advantage of the important contribution from every Protandim supplement. You get comprehensive benefits, including support for healthy aging, optimal cellular energy, improved mental focus, and healthy longevity. Yeah, just guess how old I am. Most people think I'm way younger than I am, and this is part of it. Between energy work and taking the Tri-Synergizer, just saying, just letting you know. So go ahead and check out our episodes page for more information. Thank you to Protandim Tri-Synergizer. So before we went on break, we were talking about some of the comments that were sent in about actually the value of including joy in your process of getting over someone, in the process of your post-breakup healing. And there were some comments in the chat. One of them was, that person is not alone. My first breakup was in high school. It seems quote unquote wrong to enjoy life because that is perceived as somehow disrespecting the other person or the relationship that was there. And as if there should be a grieving process / timeline. Not every relationship is the same, and maybe some will be more like that, but it doesn't really have to stop you. Thank you for that. You see, listener, you are not the only one. You are not alone on this. And I get it because, gosh, I don't think I stopped doing that whole, eat ice cream, treat your body badly, isolate yourself, cry all day, don't even let yourself enjoy life, just walk around like a zombie thing, until probably my 20s. Again, this is already a decade into dating. When I was breaking up from my first ex-fiance. I've had 2 ex-fiancés, and I was in my 20s, and hi, Clarence, wherever you are, we're reconnected. We're good friends now. We can check in on each other, and it's wonderful. But right after the breakup, there was multiple years where we could not have talked. There was a lot of bitterness. There was a lot of resentment. And that was the breakup, though, that the key turned, my whole perspective on things shifted from that breakup, because I let myself cry, and I definitely recommend doing that, but put a timer. Don't do it indefinitely. Even if it's short bursts, actually to communicate with your body that it's going to cry, but then it's also going to go back to doing something else, that it's going to pivot to something else. So the timer goes off, just like when you have a timer or alarm for waking up, you're telling your body that, okay, you were sleeping. That was great. Lovely. Yum. And now you're about to shift into something else. So that sensory cue of the sound and then the movement that elicits can shake up your body. It's like a pattern interrupt. If you are familiar with neurolinguistic psychology, like that's one of the things that we do with alarms, is we're interrupting that pattern. And so I did that. I would cry and cry and cry, and I would set like a timer for, let's say, 5 minutes. That's was a good amount of time for me. And then I would wash my face and put on moisturizer and redo my makeup if I had makeup, and if I wanted to be wearing makeup. You don't have to be wearing makeup. And then I would choose something else, and I might have another time where I felt like crying, and as soon as I started crying, I would turn the timer on again. So it wasn't like, oh no, you already did your 5 minutes, you're done for the day. No, it's like, okay, let it flow. And after a while, I don't even have to set a timer anymore. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to let myself cry for whatever amount of time. And it often is way less than 5 minutes now, instead of having a certain amount of time. But when you're learning to incorporate this and you actually giving your permission to cry, that's going to be really, really powerful. I had a client that didn't let themselves cry for years after a divorce, and they were married for, I want to say, in their 15, 16 years. It was in the teens in the amount of years. So it was a big relationship, and they had dated for a while before being married. And the fact that she wasn't letting her body release, it's a body release for you to cry, was really detrimental to her. So then her body started grieving and giving her messages about the grieving process in other ways. She started having health issues, which I could relate to. I had a year after my parents got divorced where I didn't let myself cry. Again, this was around when I was 11 years old, and I had migraines, like, so bad. It was so bad. And it was a queuing up, it's like the bottleneck was happening, and I wouldn't let the explosion, the release happen. And so my body was telling me, this is bad for you. And it was giving me headaches. So for you, if you're connected with your body, we've talked about having your yes and no with your body. What messages is your body telling you around your breakups, around this person that you used to be in a relationship with? And it doesn't really matter if you were the one that broke it off or if they broke it off. There's still a grieving process. I think I broke up with everybody that I've been with except for my first boyfriend from middle school and my second ex-fiance. No, so yeah. So there's been like 3 out of like 20 or something people that they were the ones that broke up with me. And yet I still grieved so much, and I still was in shock, and I still was using the tools that I'm mentioning to you today. So in addition to letting yourself cry, setting those timers, the other thing that I recommend is moving your body. This is another thing about connecting with your body. When you are connected, you're going to get pictures to your head. You're going to get the ideas, the impulse to do certain movements that maybe you're like, this doesn't even make sense, from twisting in your chair to stretching out in different ways, to going on a walk in the forest or by the beach. Really follow that. Listen to those messages that your body is telling you, instead of saying, no, I'm supposed to grieve in this way. This is this prescription for grief that I've been seeing all these other miserable people doing. And, really pay attention to whose bottles you're using to grieve and to have post-breakup healing. I think a lot of people, when they're dealing with breakups, they're not actually thinking that healing is possible or valuable. And it absolutely is, especially if you are connected with your body. You let yourself release, you let yourself have orgasms, even when you don't really necessarily feel as connected in the same way as your body. Like I would make sure to masturbate. I would make sure to self-pleasure. I would make sure to have releases in a lot of different ways. I would scream, ah, no, I would throw things. Oh my God, the satisfaction of breaking. And y'all know how much I love my tea. You know how much I love my mugs. And yet when I was really angry or really upset, to go and slam the mugs. Oh my goodness. Oh my God, so much satisfaction. I remember clearly I can picture me and my roommate Woods in our apartment that we shared together. And we were in our little kitchen. It had this like linoleum, this white linoleum tile. And I was just so angry. And we were like, let's just throw some stuff, whatever, we'll clean it up afterwards. And it was so great to have a friend that supported me not being all perfect and like looking any particular way as I was navigating this breakup. And I threw things and it was a release. It was a moving of the body. I was like, I got from above my body with the mug and I threw it down and I was like, yeah, ha, ha, ha. And it was just like, it was so great. And I wasn't even picturing my ex at the time. I was just wanting to get that out of my body and break it apart and let it shatter and then put myself back together again in a way that would be stronger and that would work. So move your body, move your body. We got a comment in the chat. If you have a hard time stopping from crying, look in a mirror. An event/study was done with women that most women, if they see themselves crying, often stop. I can't remember the psychology behind it, but it helps. That's a great tip. Awesome. I haven't heard of that. I haven't considered that. So thanks for adding that to my arsenal, so I can share that with my clients and with my people. Cool. On the same note of breaking things, yeah, and there's some comments about those breaking rooms that have become really popular lately, for all kinds of, wanting to release things from anger to upset to grief. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I've been doing that for years. But it's nice to have it in a safe place. I like that they have the protective goggles and the gear on. I never did that, so that's probably a smarter way to do it than what I did. But it holds true. And if you haven't checked out these breaking rooms and you want to get some of this out, go ahead and check them out. They're in most of the big cities around the world now, especially in the US. It's really common in the US. All right. Another tip, y'all. Meet up with friends. Do not isolate yourself. That being said, please check in with yourself as to when your body is ready to be around other people. So with my second ex-fiance, I was surprised when he broke up with me and yet not all at the same time. So I remember I think I was in San Diego teaching some classes, and I would periodically tap into his energy. That was one of the things that I really loved about our relationship, is it didn't matter where we were. I could always kind of sense him and he would sense me, and we would call at the same time or like message something. And it would be really funny because that's exactly what the other person was dealing with. And it's like, how did you know that? Being psychic together was really, really fun. And it's for the good, the bad, the ugly, and the awesome, for all of it. And I remember I just finished facilitating the class, and all of a sudden I got this kind of like bloop bloop in my inner knowing in my world. And I was like, what's that? And I turned internally to him energetically. He was back in Savannah, Georgia. And I remember being like, oh, something's off. Something's really off. I wonder what that is. And then he called me and he was like, I have something to talk to you about when you get back. And I was like, I was like, this isn't going to be good. And we already had the venue for our wedding. We had people that had the hotels booked and their flights booked and all the things. And it was really, so I wasn't surprised, like blindsided, because I had that knowing before coming back. And yet before that, bloop, bloop, I was so in love and I was so blissed out, and I was totally not expecting for him to decide to break off our engagement and break off the wedding and call everything off. And that was really, really hard. And when I knew, okay, I want to be around people at some point, I realized I asked my body, and I was like, okay, how long do you want to just have your own time to let yourself cry, to watch the movies, to walk around? I would go and walk because we were living together too. So he had just moved in a couple weeks before, so that we would have everything moved before the wedding and all of that. And that moving in process, I think, really shook him up and took him out of the fantasy of us and into the reality. And I was always in the reality of us and was aware of all these different things. For me, on my end, I think he had his own work to do, and it really hit him that of what it all would entail for us to be married and be together. And so I was having to grieve while my ex is right there in the same house, right, in the same living space. And so he started looking for a place to live pretty quickly. And I wanted to give myself the time while he was searching and until he moved out, before I had to answer those questions that people do and go ahead and process those different things. And like, oh, what does this mean now? And all of that. I immediately told everyone that had things booked that we were broken up and that they should cancel their flights or get the credit, because that's just the considerate thing to do. But I also asked them very explicitly, give me a couple weeks. I was like, I'd like at least 3 weeks to myself to grieve, to shift, to see what's going on, because I wasn't sure if we were going to continue dating after breaking up the engagement. It was just going to be going back to being in a relationship and not being fiancés, or if this was completely nothing was going to happen anymore. It was very blurry. He didn't really communicate that well initially. So I'm so glad I did that. And I'm so glad I have people in my life that respected that, which I do not take for granted. And I'd highly recommend for those of you that are in the isolation mode, or that in the caving mode, hibernation, all of that, that you give yourself an out. Like, when is the time where you are going to be meeting up with people, even if it's just 1 or 2 people? Because one of the things that start to happen, there's a sweet spot, is that you're processing, you're taking stock on things, you're assessing what worked, what didn't work in that relationship, what you had blind spots to, what things are you willing to choose moving forward, all of these things. And then you start creating problems, and you start doing guilt and blame and shame. And that's when you need your people, especially if hopefully you have people that will pull you out of that, will call you out on your BS, will say, no, that's not you. Or they'll point out, oh yeah, I can see what your point is with that, and also look at this. Those people that highlight and have the nuance, instead of, they're not going to all bash him. I mean, if you need that, fine. I don't personally like bashing my exes, even the one that were horrible to me or that ended on a really sour note. That doesn't do anything for me. I know people that they like that. They want their friends to like say, oh, he was horrible, he didn't appreciate you, and I can't believe blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't help me. So if you need that, fine, but also limit it to a point, because that's just creating more separation from the person that chose that person, that chose that person. So when you're judging your ex, then you are judging the version of you that chose that person. And that's a slippery slope that I don't recommend doing for too long. All right. So it's time for our next break, my loves. When we return, we were going to continue to discuss some tips that you can completely, totally, quickly, and simply implement to have part of your post-breakup healing. We will continue to discuss self-care and communication skills for more joyful breakups when we come back. We'll be right back.
Most people haven't been taught how to listen and partner with their bodies in order to create lives that include clarity, pleasure, ease, and connection. Tuning in to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and resources on how to use your awareness of bodies and energy to your advantage. Siris is a family and child coach and therapeutic energy worker who will guide you to get clear and acknowledge what's brilliant, magical, and a gift about you.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Choosing a Different Future show with Siris. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Connect with Siris through her website, empoweringlightlanguage.com, or send an email to empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. And today our show topic is self-care and communication skills for more joyful breakups. Our show is brought to you by Protanden's Tri-Synergizer. It's 3 products and that you can take advantage of, and the important contribution from every Protandin supplement. You get comprehensive benefits, including support for healthy aging, optimal cellular energy, improved mental focus, and healthy longevity. Its benefits are from teamwork, and the Protandin family of products works by activating your body's pathways to enhance its own functions. So you're going to be functioning internally and then shining outwards like you did in your 20s. How cool is that? Now, if you would like more information on this, go ahead and check out our episodes page or go to sirisrivas.lifevantage.com. And I want you to know about our upcoming events. Who's coming to Chicago? We're going to be in Chicago. I'm going to be there a couple days before our next awakening class. And then the class is going to be Saturday, November 4th. The theme is coming home to you. We're going to have in-person people. We already have people that are registered for in-person, and you can live stream it to your home wherever you are in the world. And you just let us know which version you're doing. And you'll still get your manual and your infographic and things like that. Really excited for that. And then we also have a follow-up Zoom. So make sure to put in your calendar the follow-up Zoom that we'll have, and you don't have to be in person there because I'm not going to be in person anymore in Chicago at that point. I will be back in Charlotte by the time we have our Zoom. But I'm really excited. This is such a great group that is gathering so far. And what would it create if we added your energy into the class as well? We also have the Expansive Energies self-care group. This is a membership group. It's $45 a month. And our October theme is honoring and celebrating ancestral wisdom. We actually have our next call tonight. You can get the replay of the earlier one from this month and then continue onward from today. And the information for the group is at empoweringlightlanguage.com/expansive energies. We have our next Being a Different Possibility for Families monthly call. It's going to be on October 23rd, this upcoming Monday, on family and money. We're going to be talking about financial literacy and financial health, the things and the tips that you can use to make sure that your family is considering all these different aspects of their money. And send in questions. We love getting in the questions so that we are tailoring these virtual calls to you and to your family. And then we're going to have a live meet and greet in person in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's our Halloween edition on Halloween weekend on Sunday, October 29th, where we're going to be meeting in a little cafe here in Charlotte. And so join us for that. Our information's on our website for it. Now, before we went on break, we were talking about some of the things that we can do to have post-breakup healing our own way. And this nuance of when to choose isolation and when not to choose isolation. Yay, the people in our chat are joining us in Chicago, at least a lot of them. Thank you so much. I'm excited for that. One of the things with isolation is that I almost hesitate to even call it isolation because of all the connotations of it. It's taking a pause from socializing, taking a pause from being around other people, and then knowing when it's time to do that. I find that a couple weeks is a good amount of time. As soon as you go into weeks, into months, then it either tells me that you don't have the people that you can trust to talk to that will honor where you're at and that won't project their agendas or their points of views about breakups onto you. And that's really common, and I get it. And so reach out to me, reach out to breakup forums, reach out to those that, even if they're not in the same physical community that you're in, if they're abroad or in a different state, talk to the people, even if it's just by phone, that will meet you where you're at, that won't judge you, that won't say that you need to be grieving in any particular way, that they let you go through your steps and your process the way that's going to work for you. So that's one thing. The other thing with that is, as you're grieving, however long it is, as you're dealing with the breakup, consider pampering yourself. I know, unheard of, right? Why would you want to do that? Well, one, it's good to do anyway, like even when you're not dealing with a breakup. But a lot of people will come to me for coaching sessions because they realize that there's all these different ways that they weren't caring for themselves, that they weren't nurturing themselves during their relationship. That may have been part of what played into their breakup. Maybe them not being themselves and caring for themselves. The partner was like, I don't want to be with this version of you. Who are you anymore? Maybe you've let yourself go. Maybe you're not eating right. Maybe you're, grumpy all the time, all these different things. Also, maybe you aren't caring for yourself through a series of past relationships. And then now you're at this most recent one, or you're recalling this and you've gotten the aha, like, wow, I really haven't been caring for myself. And it may have been just towards the end of those relationships or the last ones, but whatever that is, it's a great chance to set in place some new habits, some new self-care systems that are kinder, that are gentler, that are sweeter to you and your body moving forward. So pamper yourself. And for each person, it's going to be different. That's part of what I love to do with my coaching sessions, is really adapt those self-care tips to the person, to their strengths, to their interests, to what's really going to light up their body, because every body is different. All right. Now, heads up, y'all. Don't stalk your ex. Do not stalk your ex. Given the world of social media, like, this is a thing that I have to emphasize now more than ever. Like, we're more connected and we could see all these different things with the exes now more than ever. Like, and with breakups, it really depends on many factors. Like, maybe you have some mutual friends. Maybe you have kids that you share, that you're co-parenting. Maybe there are communities that you're a part of. Like when I was breaking up with one of my ex-girlfriends, she was part of the King community in Chicago. And it's really hard to not see each other at these different events and workshops and classes when you're in these play spaces. And it was a consideration for me. That being said, I wasn't stalking her. I wasn't seeking out to find her and find out what she was doing. I wasn't making sure that, I was checking what events she was going to go to those events and like see who she was seeing now. None of that stuff. Like, and we do this, and it's such a form of self-punishment and disrespect of ourselves. Please, please, please don't do it. Please, it's just hurtful. It's really not beneficial at all. And it tells me that you're actually not ready to respect yourself enough to either listen to their choice of breaking up with you, or listen to your inner knowing and your choice to break up with them. Because there was something that told you to break up with them. And then if you're going against it by stalking them and following them around, you're keeping your worlds unraveled and intertwined. And it's time to start unraveling and not like deleting them necessarily from your life if you're co-parenting or you have mutual friends, but that source of being intertwined in a way that you're in a relationship doesn't need to happen. And so what if you didn't seek them out on social media or even be friends with them for a while, and have both of you chose to have consciously shifting in your dynamic? Like, I remember one of my exes, Ikram. Hi, Ikram. I love you. We both consciously chose to break up because to be with him, I would have to change religions, and I wasn't going to do that. I researched it. I was very open to his religion. I think it's a beautiful religion. There's some aspects of it that weren't going to work for me. And to the degree that I would need to be converted, like fully, I wasn't going to do it halfway. It wasn't going to work. And so we recognized that it wasn't anything wrong with our relationship. But we knew that wasn't going to work, that there wasn't a long-term option. So we broke up, and then we consciously both chose to have 2 months of where we didn't talk at all. We didn't message each other. We didn't interact. We weren't in the same spaces. If we saw each other in the same space, we'd be like, hey, and then we'd walk away, right? We weren't like going to be cold to each other because we still cared about each other, but we wanted to allow ourselves to shift into a different mindset about how we saw each other. I wasn't thinking about a life with him anymore. I was going to think about, okay, how could we still connect, and how could we still honor each other and not have these hopes and dreams still be include each other in the same way. And then what was really cool is me and my friend Woods, we then played matchmaker with him and his now wife. And so he dated his wife that we set him up with, that we like hooked them up, that we all knew each other. And I was like, you should really consider her. She's really awesome. And she continues to be awesome. And I don't know what I have on my mouth that is like, it feels like fur. Sorry, y'all, it's distracting. But we match made them, and they dated for like 5-6 years. They got married. They traveled the world together. They have multiple kids together, beautiful kids, and they get to live together and create this awesome life. Also, they were both of the same religion, so they didn't have that as a point of contention, and it was really, really cool. But if I hadn't let myself shift and was trying to like be all up in his business, even though we had chosen to break up, I wouldn't have been able to create that different possibility and to plant some seeds to support him in his new relationship endeavors. And I'm just super happy for him. And we still check in on holiday times and birthdays and things like that. And I'm so grateful for our friendship. So really, really cool. All right, it is time for our next break, y'all. When we return, we are going to talk about a question that was sent in by one of our listeners. Our topic today is self-care and communication skills for more joyful breakups. And you're listening to Choosing a Different Future with Siris on the Inspired Choices Network. We'll be right back.
Most people haven't been taught how to listen and partner with their bodies in order to create lives that include clarity, pleasure, ease, and connection. Tuning in to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and resources on how to use your awareness of bodies and energy to your advantage. Siris is a family and child coach and therapeutic energy worker who will guide you to get clear and acknowledge what's brilliant, magical, and a gift about you. This is the Choosing a Different Future show with Siris. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Connect with Siris through her website, empoweringlightlanguage.com, or send an email to empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. And today our show topic is self-care and communication skills for more joyful breakups. Yes, it's possible. We've been talking about it quite a bit. So somebody sent in this question ahead of time. And even though I got to sit with it ahead of time, I'm still not quite sure how to answer it. And you'll see why in a moment. The question was, what was your worst breakup and how did you get over it? I could tell you how I got over almost every single one of my breakups. It to some extent, maybe not in every detail, but picking the worst breakup, that was what was tricky for me, because they were all challenging in different ways. So I think the one that changed the trajectory of my life the most was both of my ex-fiancés, because I was planning lives with them, right? They were discussions of retirement and careers and children or no children or all these different things. I think with the first ex-fiance, I would have kids right now if we hadn't broken up, because we were definitely planning on having kids. I was at a time in my life where I was like, why isn't my womb filled? Before I realized that I was thinking about having kids because everyone was projecting at me that I should have kids and that would be a great mother, but not necessarily because I really wanted to have kids. I think the one that was the most surprising, actually, and that tore me up in a way that I totally didn't expect, and I'm not even sure why I didn't expect it, but I just didn't, was one of my exes. We basically, our whole relationship transformed, and it went from amazing and happy and like hopeful to him being toxic and yelling at me and me being like, what is going on here? Who are you? All within a weekend. We went on a trip to Asheville, North Carolina. And over the course of that weekend, he didn't look at me. He wasn't really acknowledging I was there. And I was like, what's going on? Like, this is so out of character. It was so weird. And because of such a quick turnaround, and that was the relationship that I had right after my second ex-fiance, where I wasn't really sure if I would find somebody else that I could travel the world with and see all these different possibilities with. That was really devastating to me. And it took me a really long time to be open to somebody again, in my concept of a long time. I guess it wasn't really a long time, but how I got over that was I acknowledged and was in gratitude for what we created together up until then. I acknowledged that with where he was at, and I took stock on myself and what I brought to the table and what I could learn from it. I definitely did a lot of caving, hibernation at first, and then I went into, because I'm poly too, I was like, I'm looking for another relationship, and I started just flexing the muscles of dating without having a perspective of going right into a new relationship. But I didn't want to let myself get stagnant, because I was realizing that I was about to put up all of the walls. Like, I had never been in a relationship and had a breakup where I could so acutely perceive how I was not putting up just regular old walls, but like brick and cement, and then some more, and like multiple feet in depth walls. And I was like, well, that's not me. And I knew that if I let myself fully cave and like not date for a while, that it was actually going to be detrimental to me having me in relationships. So I actually dated sooner than I ever had after other breakups, so that I didn't put up the walls. And I just was having fun. It was super casual for quite some time. And then I found somebody that was really awesome, that it was a yes for me to start a relationship with them, and that we were together for a good chunk of time. And it was the right process for that particular breakup. But with each breakup, it's different. There's not a one size fits all in the post-breakup healing process. And I think that's the other thing that is a takeaway from today, that hopefully you've gotten from today, is that people sometimes need a more personalized plan and an approach depending on what was going on in that relationship, because each relationship entail different things. The things that brought you together is different. The things you created and chose together are different. The things that you plan to have together were different. And so you're going to be grieving a very diverse aspects of your life. So there's that. Thank you for sending in the question. So join us next week. Next week, we're going to have Trini Sherman, and we're going to talk about stop people pleasing and powerfully navigate toxic relationships. So toxic relationships can exist in your personal and your professional life and deplete you in so many ways. They can leave you feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and frustrated because life seems to be running you instead of you running life. Have you looked into how often you put the needs of others ahead of your own? Taken an inventory of the health of your current dynamics? The issue could be people pleasing in the midst of a toxic relationship. So we're going to be talking about a bunch of different things, and you'll walk away knowing how to identify toxic relationships, break free from its negative effects, and no longer operate as a people pleaser. I'm really excited to have Trini on the show. We met through NABO, which is a National Association for Women Business Owners. I've met some amazing people through there. And so I'm going to talk to Trini, who is from Unbounded with Trini. That's her company. She's a certified coach. And we're going to talk about how you can have the power within to create the life that reveals the most authentic, unapologetic, and impactful version of yourself, so that you can soar to heights you have dared to imagine thus far. Super excited to talk about her. A lot of things that we've been talking about today is also going to be a great complement to our discussion. But I really hope you enjoyed our discussion today. There's way more tips I have for y'all if you're interested in having joyful breakups and a joyful post-breakup healing journey. But I know that that's not for everybody. If you want to stay miserable, you get to stay miserable. If you want to actually have more of you in your relationships and have a greater sense of joy, come and reach out. I'm accepting new coaching clients right now. I am going to be devoting my time to clients, to family, and to my writing for the rest of this year. And I'd love to support you in your journey to make sure that you are choosing things your way and not like anybody else. So go ahead and reach out into email at empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com or check out my website. Thank you so much, everyone. And I will see you next week with Trini Sherman. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Choosing a Different Future show. Siris returns Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, keep choosing what will work for you and your body, your own unique way honoring what will work for you.